Yes, guys. Now, what is this discontinued operation? How is it different from non-current asset held for sale? Let's say we are into garment business, one of the most engaging business, guys, because even during all these lockdowns and all, you find that Mintras, Ajios are actually still improving their sale because the physical stores got locked down. Let's say we are into garment business and we manufacture or we actually tailor women garment, men garments, and as well as kids garments. So I broadly divide my operations into three categories: women garment, men garments, and the kids garments. Kids garment, fairly a profitable business because they keep growing very fast, and whatever the clothes they already had, they had to replace it because the kid is growing fast, right? So it was going very well. I'm making sufficient amount of profits. There is no doubts regarding that. When it came to women garment, then it is fantastic because it was going on really well, because you find that women basically shop on a normal way. For you, how you eat, the same way women shop. It's as simple as that. I breathe oxygen. When shop, both are similar for me because they're facts. So whenever we talk about such kind of phenomena, women garments was making fantastic amount of profits from, because the volumes of sale were significantly high. The problem for me was coming with men garment, because for us there was nothing called as fashion. It's the same shirt, same pattern. Last 20 years we have been following the same trend. There's no significant change in the trend unless and until someone like Ranveer Singh actually pops up from somewhere. Okay. So basically when we had the same trend, the same sequence which following, we find that basically men were only shopping for once in a year or twice in a year. So whenever this significance has occurred, I understood that my men garment was actually making losses. My segment of men garment was actually making losses. Significant amount of machinery, significant amount of manpower, significant amount of money was invested in this particular operation for tailoring my men garment. But what I understood was this men garment, since it was not making a profit, I wanted to discontinue this segment. I wanted to disown this segment, leave this segment, and only concentrate my business towards the kids garment and women garment because they were making sufficient amount of profit. This amount of man, machine and money which was invested in the men garment, I wanted to divert it into women garments and kid garment so that I can enhance the amount of profitability which I make. Right? That is ultimately the business objective. The business objective is to enhance the profit which I make. So when I understood that this particular section is not making enough profit, I will try to allocate those resources into other segments which are making sufficient amount of profit. Now my decision to discontinue, my decision to stop this particular production of a separate major line of business as far as a men garment is concerned, I believe is constituted as a discontinued operation under IND AS 105. The definition which I gave you, or the example which I gave you, very well fits even the definition of AS 24, which is talking about discontinuing operation. Contrary to it. I was specialized in manufacture of woolen clothing. Okay, I was specialized in manufacture of woolen clothing. My woolen clothing segment is spread across the country. Across the country of India, I've kept on selling your garments or woolen clothing. Now, the northern India, I had good amount of sale because the cold wave during a particular season is significantly high. So my woolen garments were definitely seasonal in nature, but at the same time, they were significant as far as their volumes were concerned. But when it came down to south, I found that the temperatures were a little higher side. Therefore, I don't find a great demand for woolen clothing even during the winter season, because the winters are not as cold as it was in north. You don't find a sub 10 degree temperature. You find only a 16 or 17 degrees temperature, which was generally called as pleasant. They are not called as very cold. They are just called as pleasant. So now when I realized this, I thought let us wind up my section of retail stores and the manufacturing facilities down south. I would, however, want to continue my manufacturing and retail distribution segments in north. I want to just wind up whatever is there in south. So this way of geographically identifying the operations and shutting down one of the geographical location which has significantly different risk and rewards is also constituting as discontinuing operation. So not just the business operation, but also my geographical location can also be constituted as a discontinuing operation as per Ind AS 105. Clear? So whenever I plan to shut down either a separate major line of business or a geographical location, it can be constituted as a discontinuing operation. Clear now? So let's write down. Put a heading as discontinued operations. What is a definition of discontinued operations as far as your standard Ind AS 105 is concerned? Ind AS 105 defines discontinued operations like this. It is a component of an enterprise which is either disposed or instead of being disposed, it is classified as held for sale. It is either disposed or it is classified as held for sale. You can call such a component as a discontinued operation. Now question comes up, what do you mean by a component of an enterprise? We've seen this word component in relation to your Ind AS 16, 38 and 40. Component basis of identifying an asset. All significant components of an asset have to be recognized separately and depreciated separately because they have a distinguished useful life which is different from the useful life of the other significant components of this. Now here I am talking about not a component of an asset, but I am talking about a component of an enterprise itself. Then what is a component of an enterprise? Let's try to understand. A component of an enterprise, it represents component of an enterprise. Component is nothing but a part. What part of an enterprise does it represent? It represents, number one, a separate major line of business or geographical location. It represents separate major line of business or geographical location. Part B. Which enterprise intends which the enterprise intends to dispose pursuant to a single plan. Pursuant to a single plan. The enterprise has decided to dispose this particular major line of business or geographical operations in a single plan. One single plan of disposal I have announced, and that is discontinued operation. 3. Or it represents subsidiary which is intended for sale or immediate sale on acquisition. It represents a separate major line of business or a geographical location which the enterprise intends to dispose of pursuant to a single plan. Or it represents a subsidiary which is acquired with an intention of immediate sale. Guys, this concept of subsidiary intended for immediate sale on acquisition, it has something to do with even your provisions of earlier your AS21. Your earlier AS21 and IND AS 110 also talk about this particular word, subsidiary intended for immediate sale on acquisition. That means I kept on acquiring interest in the company to an extent that I today control more than 50%. But my intention is not to control this enterprise, but my intention is to dispose of my interest in this subsidiary and make some profit. My intention is to dispose my investment in the subsidiary and derive some profits from the sale. So whenever such kind of thing comes up, as per your AS21, we will definitely discuss about the same aspect even under IND AS 110 when I come to consolidation concept, but I'm just giving you a brief of what I'm going to discuss then because it is relevant in this case. Whenever I intend to dispose of a subsidiary immediately on acquisition, at the time of acquisition itself my intention was to sell the investment. In such case, as per AS21, consolidation with the subsidiary, an enterprise was exempted from presenting financial statements on consolidated basis with the subsidiary. If my intention is to sell the investment in the subsidiary in near future, then I don't have to consolidate my financial statements with the financial statements of the subsidiary. However, IND AS 110 has removed the exemption. Such exemption is no longer available under the standard IND AS 110. That means consolidation has to be done. But unfortunately, if you consolidate, don't you think immediately when you dispose it, next year you don't have to consolidate? There is a significant effect on the financial statements arising due to consolidation. There's a consolidated P&L where even the profits of the subsidiary are included, and there's also the assets and liabilities of the subsidiary which get combined with the holding company upon consolidation. Think about simple plus and plus. Holding plus subsidiary is consolidated financial statement. So therefore, definitely the enterprise has, since there is no exemption from consolidation, has to add all the elements of incomes and expenses in the statement of P&L, has to add all their assets and liabilities in the balance sheet. However, since it is a discontinued operation, it will give you enough idea to the user that this is intended for immediate sale by making a change in the presentation. Okay, what is the change in the presentation? I'll discuss later. I just wanted to tell you that IND AS 21 and IND AS 110 are slightly different. IND AS 21, we are exempted from consolidation if the subsidiary is held for immediate sale, but under IND AS 110, the same exemption is not available. That is the reason why you definitely need the provisions of IND AS 105 to help the user understand that this subsidiary which I consolidated is intended for immediate sale by classifying the subsidiary under the head of discontinued operations. Clear? Now guys, though you said it is a component of an enterprise which is intended for sale or which is held for disposal or is classified as held for sale, you have to basically come about what is the component of an enterprise. When do I identify these components? A component of an enterprise should be distinguished operationally and for financial reporting purpose. Only then it can be called as component. Component of an enterprise should be distinguished operationally and for financial reporting purpose. Only then it satisfies the word component. Let us try to understand what we have discussed so far under discontinued operation. A discontinued operation is a part of an enterprise or a component of an enterprise which is either disposed of or you have classified that component under held for sale. Now, what do you mean by a component? I'll identify a component only if it can be distinguished operationally and for financial reporting purpose. I'll talk about it. But such a component of an enterprise represents a separate major line of business or geographical location, which the enterprise intends to dispose of in a single plan, pursuant to a single plan, or it is a subsidiary which is intended for immediate sale on acquisition itself. When I use this word, it is distinguished operationally and for financial reporting purpose. What do you mean by this statement? By this statement, I mean operating distinguished means what? Operating incomes, expenses, assets and liabilities. Can be directly attributable to the segment. Okay, so what we are saying, since it is a component, I am saying that operating incomes, expenses, assets and liabilities can be directly attributable to the segment or the component. Then you can say that it is distinguished operationally and for financial reporting purpose. So that means I can say this asset A, B, C, these are used for this particular purpose. From these assets, I am deriving an income of 200 crores. To derive this income of 200 crores, I incurred some, your raw material cost, your labor cost, your factory overheads, all put together around 160 crores, resulting in a margin of 40 crores. These assets which are attributable to the segment have a carrying value of 400 crores. The liabilities attributable to this segment are to the extent of 150 crores. So these are directly attributable to this particular manufacturing operation, or which is distinguished operationally and for financial reporting purpose, or that is called as a component of an enterprise. Clear? Now, when you understand that these are discontinued operation, let me take one more example for us to understand the discontinued operation and what is not a discontinued operation. Let's say, for example, I'm shifting my operations. My current manufacturing facility is, let's say, somewhere in Mumbai. But I thought, Mumbai is being too costly for me. So I wanted to shift the entire manufacturing facilities from Mumbai to Chennai. Okay. So this shifting of manufacturing facility cannot be called as discontinuance of manufacturing facility in Mumbai. No. It is just shifting. It is not discontinuance. Because it is the same machine, same utility, same operations which are continued by changing the geographical location. So as such, you cannot say that I am stopping or discontinuing a particular geographical location out there. Number 2, let's say I am into cosmetics. Super fantastic, profitable business. Out of this cosmetics, there were certain products which I have. In this cosmetic line, I have multiple products. Out of these products, I find that one particular product has very significantly bad reviews. The reviews have been damaging the image of the company itself and also significantly damaging the cosmetic line of business. So what I did, that particular product, I discontinued. I issued an apology saying that this particular product has not been giving us a desired result. So therefore, we are discontinuing this particular product out of our cosmetic line. Can it constitute to discontinued operation? No, because it does not represent a separate major line of business. It only represents one product in the ongoing business line. I am not shutting down the entire cosmetic line. I am only shutting down one of the product in the ongoing cosmetic line. Therefore, you cannot call it as discontinued operation. It is still a continuing operation, out of which what I discontinued is only one of the product out. Here, so this is one very, very important example, or one of the example where you can say that it is not discontinued operation only if you discontinue few products out of the ongoing business line. Clear? Whenever I come across this discontinued operation, what do you have as far as, or what do you come across as far as the difference in the presentation is concerned? Presentation. The significance of discontinued operation can be identified in the presentation of one, the statement of P&L. Second one, your statement of cash flows. And also shall impact the presentation of EPS as per IND AS 33. Will have an impact on the presentation even of the EPS under IND AS 33. Now, what is the significance that you find? As far as my statement of P&L is concerned, my profit or loss from the discontinuing operation or discontinued operation should be presented separately from continuing operations. Separately from continuing operation. Okay. This is the first one. The tax on such discontinued operation should also be presented separately. Tax thereon should also be presented separately. Similarly, the profit or loss on disposal requires a distinct presentation. They should not be clubbed along with other things. They have to be distinctly presented. Now you tell me, why do you intend to disclose the profit or loss from discontinuing operation separately from continuing operation? What is the idea that you are communicating to the user? I am communicating to the user of my financial statements that this profit or loss which I got is inclusive of continuing and discontinued operation. This amount of profit pertains to discontinued operation. This amount of profit pertains to discontinued operation, and such amount is not recurring because I already discontinued it. In the subsequent year, you will not come across a similar item once again. If there is a significant amount of loss on discontinued operation, a user will see the financial statements and say, oh, okay, this amount of loss which is attributable to the discontinued operation is not going to recur again in the subsequent year. This is the idea of why I present it as a separate line item in your presentation of statement of P&L. Same way, whenever I have a subsidiary which has been acquired with an intention to dispose immediately, when I include all the incomes and expenses as well, the profit or loss of the subsidiary included in the holding company while presenting a consolidated P&L is disclosed separately, because I'm communicating to the user, boss, this amount of profit or loss belongs to the subsidiary. It is not my profit. And this profit or loss of the subsidiary, this is only for the current year. I expect the disposal to occur immediately. Therefore, you will not find this profit or loss from the subsidiary added to my consolidated balance sheet in the subsequent years. Here. So this is exactly why we need a separate presentation in the statement of P&L. Similarly, cash flows arising from operating, investing, and financing of discontinued operations are presented separately. They are not included in the operating cash flows. So your continuing operations and discontinued operation cash flows should be identified separately and presented in the statement of cash flow. EPS also. EPS from continuing and discontinued operation shall be presented separately. The EPS from continuing and discontinued operation should be presented separately. And that will conclude our discussion on this standard as far as IND AS 105 is concerned. So we have discussed about discontinued operations, and also earlier we have discussed about non-current assets held for sale. Bring us to the end of IND AS 105, and therefore we'll have to move into our illustrations, workbooks, additions to study material, and your compendium of solved illustrations. Let's get into that.